Hey everybody, it's Rob Scheer, the founder of Comfort Cases and the host of Fostering Change. Wow, it's so hard to believe that we've wrapped up season 5. I am absolutely still in just the awe for the third year in a row to be voted the #1 podcast in foster care and adoption. You know what? It's summertime and it's time to take a break. But the thing that I absolutely love is we get to do the best of during the summer break. This was a real hard one because we only have 6 episodes that we will be airing. So when my team got together, we listened again to podcasts, I skimmed through books again. These are the next 6. And by the way, for any of all the other episodes and all my other guests, and I traveled all over the country, I've interviewed so many people, read so many books, I want to say thank you. You're all the best of. And so this was a really, really hard choice. I hope you all enjoy this interview. Have a great day. Well, I will tell you what, I am absolutely loving this time of year. We are actually right close to Thanksgiving. And as you all know, Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays. The Scheer family, we're going to be going down and hanging out with my mother-in-law. She's the most amazing cook. But I am so excited about my next guest. See, my next guest, actually, I've done a little bit of stalking. I've stalked him for quite a while now. I can tell you that he is an absolute inspiration to me. As a dad, I think it's one of the most rewarding things that you could ever be in the world as a father. But to be a father, to have children from our foster care system is not always the easiest. And I've said this very, very bluntly in the last 5 seasons. To know that my next guest has actually fostered 34 children. Now, mind you, I have a spouse. My spouse is a saint. He is the most unbelievable stay-at-home dad. And when I've read Peter's book and learned about Peter through People magazine and realized that my friend, he's a single dad. So I am ready to jump right in. Peter, welcome to Fostering Change.
Well, Rob, thank you for having me here. Yes, I follow you, so I know your life as well, on a daily basis. So thank you for having me here.
Well, I thank you so much. First of all, I just want to start out and say congratulations, because I do follow you through social media. I know that you just adopted 2 more children. Is that correct?
Yes, as you know, you wait and wait and wait, and one day you get to know, hey, you can adopt these kids. So for me, that's been a 3-year wait, and we're really excited.
I love it. I have to tell you, your oldest son, though, he has got so much of your personality. I love it when he takes over your Instagram and, does his own thing. He's just got so much of your personality. So I want to jump right in and let our listeners and viewers know, how old was he when he arrived?
He was 11 years old. He had just turned 11 when he came to me.
How many homes had he been in prior?
For him, likely he'd only been in one because he came in foster care at 1.5, and then he stayed with his family, and they adopted him once he turned 4. And the same family that adopted him are the ones who dropped him at the hospital, never said goodbye, and never gave him the reason why they didn't want him anymore. So he did have to go through so many homes, but the trauma and it's just, there's no way you could have a family for 9 years and all of a sudden they just say, hey, we don't want you anymore, which was really bad.
Wow. We see that so much lately, that where, kids are being adopted out of foster care. They're staying with their new adopted families. And then all of a sudden, the families are just putting them back in the system. I mean, they're calling these kids, they actually have a name for them now, and they're called the boomerang kids. And these are these kids that are, they're boomerang. I mean, I could not imagine. I have 5 kids, all 5 of them from the system. They arrived when they were 6 months, 2, 2, and 4. And then we adopted in 2019, we got an 18-year-old. So knowing that you got an 11-year-old and knowing the fact, had you been familiar with the foster care system here in the United States prior to that?
So he was my number 11, so by the time he came, I had a good experience with the other 10 kids who had been either reunified, or gone to kinship. So yes, I was quite a pro by then.
So you got to tell me how does somebody, here you are, a single man, your career and everything, and all of a sudden, did you have that same desire like I had? For instance, I grew up in the system. I know that you actually grew up on the streets as well. You and I have very similar backgrounds, which is, so when I was reading the book, I was just like, oh my gosh. How did you just have that desire you wanted to be a dad?
Yes, I've always wanted to be a dad. I think, having a worst dad on the planet, like, I think I wanted to show him what a good father looks like. That was really my whole goal too. But also too, that the stranger who took me in, who changed my life, that they showed me what a father ought to be. They showed me what to dream and to be kind and how to really be there for someone, that I wanted to in some way pay it forward, like use what they already taught me to truly do that for someone. But I didn't know I had an opportunity. Here's why. I had traveled in more than 100 countries. I traveled with people adopting, but I never seen a Black person who was adopting in Uganda or in Ethiopia, or a person of color. So they were always two married couples, man and wife. And I thought, hey, there's no opportunity for me. So I knew that I didn't have a chance to adapt or be a dad unless I was married. That those are the policies, because men are not allowed to adapt outside, anywhere. So I knew there's no way until I came to know about foster care. I was like, wait a minute, these kids, they are my favorite human being because I know them better because I was one of them. And so for me, that opened a door for me to say, you know what? I can truly be a dad because someone loved me at my lowest, and I can do the same for kids who are looking for a place to be loved and be known.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Gosh, you and I are just so much alike because I love the same exact thing. For me, being a dad, number one, 14 years ago when we had our children first arrive, it was not common for gay people to be foster parents. It was shunned on. And the fact that we were two white men and we were taking in children of color because we live in DC, that was even, people were just like, that just doesn't happen. And so, and to see now how much it's changed, how much we've really done. I just interviewed somebody recently, just the other day, and one of the things that we were talking about is how hard it is to find foster parents, that we have such a lack of foster parents, that we are seeing kids throughout the country. And by the way, right in your state, as well as in my state of Maryland, where kids are actually sleeping in offices because there's just not enough homes for them. What would you say to someone who's actually considering and thinking that they would like to be a foster parent?
I think we've all had the scary stories. We've had the negative side of it, but that's not true. One child should not in some way, or two kids, or, in some way paint a picture of every child in foster care. That's not true. They're amazing kids who are looking to be loved and be part of the family. Either they're little or they're teenagers, that we can all do something. There's resources to train you. There's resources to provide for you to be the best you can be. If you rent and you're like, well, I rent, do they allow, yeah, absolutely. If you rent and you have an extra bedroom, yes, you can be. All you're seeing when say, how do I do it? There's a community around you. There are people waiting to come alongside. We can't all be foster parents, but we can all do something for one another. And I think once you find your village, they would really come alongside and help you. So the fear of I'm single, I cannot do, I promise you, you're going to find people in your life that will come alongside and they'll help you. And that's what's been for me. And the fear too, here's another thing too. I think culture have said, get married and then have children and all that. And I'm saying, well, we can reverse too. While we're waiting to be married, we can actually be a mom or a dad to someone, So in some way, let's not always follow the standard ways, but find ways on how truly we can be a mom, a dad to someone that needs care and love. These kids, they didn't choose to be in foster care, and we can't just neglect them. We just can't let them, face the challenges, but we can come alongside and be there for them. And that's all they're looking for,
Yeah,
to be
I
loved,
agree. I agree.
to be known.
I say this quite often, and I love that you just said this. You know, the first thing you need to do, and someone just said this to me the other day, is the first thing you got to do is you got to find your community. If you're going to choose to do this, you're going to have to find your community because you do need support. And that is one of the things that I do feel that we have lack of when it comes, you know, you're looking at the average lifespan is about 13 months for a foster parent. And and as a speaker across the country, you know, I talk to foster parents. Even this weekend, I was at a conference, and the reason they have burnout is that they feel they don't have enough support, you know. And what I try to tell everybody is, listen, you know, exactly what you said. Not everybody can foster, not everybody can adopt, but everybody can help. Maybe cook a meal and bring a meal over to you know someone, or maybe get to a point where you can get licensed where you can watch a child, you can actually babysit a child. You know, I want to get into some tough questions because this is I will tell you that I'm a little outspoken. Anybody who knows me knows that I am very outspoken about the system. I believe that the system is not where it should be. It is shattered. I believe that it is an industry that makes money on the backs of children, and that we really need to really rebuild our foster care system. You know, we see 96%, 64% of kids come into the system because of the word neglect. We know that the word neglect is no more than poverty. And, you know, I feel like we should go in and foster the family, you know, foster the family before that child is removed. Now, understand, my 5 children, 2 of my children were severely abused. No questions. They needed to be out of that situation. But 2 of my children, their mom just couldn't pay rent. You know, she had a drug problem and she needed help. And I'm so happy and blessed that I have a relationship with her and that my children have a relationship with her. And I'm asking, the reason I'm asking, telling you this is, if you had 2 things that you could do today to help change our foster care system, what would your 2 things be?
Oh, well, you nailed it in the coffin. You know, for me is intervening before the child comes in the foster care. And as I like what you said, let's not look at that. Here's the thing, what I've come of all 36 kids I've had, they're amazing moms that are absolutely love their kids, but they just lack the resource, you know. Like the one, you know, I had last year, you know, they were sleeping in the cupboard. She loved her kids, you know, but they had nowhere to sleep. Did she not love her kids? She loved them. Did he lack resources? Absolutely. So rather than let the kids come into the foster care, I wish we had intervened in helping the mom in some way. So yes, I agree with you. If we can, like, I would love to truly be an advocate for mom and dad, or just mom, you know, rather than give me the child, but rather give me the entire family in some way, so I can truly be alongside them. You know, most time that's what they need: some to be accountable, someone to check on them, but also, let's say, you know, kids don't have to be in foster care, that I can have them, but also check on mom. You know, so that's for me number 1. Number 2 is churches and everyone else who loves kids, you know, we all to open a resource for moms before they come into foster care, before they struggle. Resource where they say, hey, how can we help you? You know, in your community, don't wait for a mom to report them to go to take their kids away, but how can you intervene and say, I know you're struggling. What ways can I come alongside for you so your kids are well? If it's drugs, hey, can we have your kids every weekend so you can attend rehab classes? You know, if it's they can't drive anywhere, hey, can I babysit your kids so you can go to work where you need to? So in some way, truly being a village. I'm from Africa. You know, it takes a village to raise a child, but also it takes a village to stop a child from coming to foster care. When we as a community step up and say, hey, mom, we know you're struggling, let's help you. Here's why moms don't ask: because we see them as villains and we judge them. You know, and if we can take that away and say, hey, let's not judge you, but let's come alongside as who you are and help you. And I think in that way, we get to really put a dent in the foster care system, you know, by intervening before they come. But even when they come in, to say, hey, how do I come alongside mom and dad, or just mom, to say, hey, I'm not here to take your child, but I'm here to support you so you can have your kids back.
As
And for
quickly as
me,
possible. As
yes,
quickly
you
as
know,
possible. And I agree with you on that. I think that, you know, too many times we look at these birth parents and consider them villains and consider them, you know, and they love their children. And, the fact is that what I'm seeing throughout the country is that the reason they're scared to raise their hand is because they are scared someone's going to take their children. I mean, just recently, the mother who had a 12-year-old that she left at home watching the 3-month-old because she couldn't afford a babysitter, but she had to go to work because she knew if she didn't go to work, she was going to get evicted from her apartment. So instead of somebody coming in and saying, let me help you with the resources, they took her kids and put them in foster care. And it's like, she's not a bad mom. She's just trying to provide. And I think that somewhere down the road, we have forgotten truly why our forefathers built communities. And they built communities for us to take care of each other.
Yes.
Yeah. Take care of each other. Nelson Mandela said it's so great. He said, you judge your society based on the way you treat your children. You judge your society on the basis of the way you treat your children. The way that we treat the over 400,000 kids in foster care as if they're second class, giving them trash bags, moving them from home to home, not recognizing the trauma and by the way, the trauma of removing that child from that family, that's trauma right there.
I mean, that will last forever. You wonder why they don't trust. When they've been put in a home every other month or every 6 months, it really affects the children. And for you and I, Bob, we're men. And somehow I think sometimes we've been removed or not seen as, hey, you're valuable to the nurture of our kids, So in some way to say, hey, man, you are equally responsible as mom. And that's kind of for me what I'm learning is, yes, there are moms who are for kids. What do they do when they're stressed? When they can't provide for their kids, what do they do? Well, a friend finds a little something that can help them to sleep. So then they go once, they go twice. 6 months down the road, that they can't live without that sleeping pill. In some way, did they choose to really go into that? No. But they were neglected. They were not there. And I think it's time for us to step up and truly be the best we can be. As a dad, sometimes I'm overlooked like, do you know what you're doing?
Yes,
I'm like,
I get the same thing.
I'm like, I know, absolutely. And in some way trying to educate people like my kids never ask me for the Jordan shoes, the best shoes they can do. No. Just so when things go wrong, I can call my dad and say, hey, here's what happened. I can come home and my dad say, it's gonna be okay, and I think that's what every child needs. I've had 36 children. None of them has ever said, I wish we had a mom. No, they all never had a dad before, so in some way to say, wow, I have a role to play, and encourage other men to, like, we all have a role to play into our children's lives, and it will change the life of a child, but also really come alongside their moms as well.
Yeah. And you say that, and I actually read that in your People magazine article where, your kids they've never said it. My children haven't either, by the way. My kids who, being raised by two men, my kids have never said once, I wish that I had a mom. Now other people have come to us and have had the audacity to say, how are you doing this without a mother? Are they getting the nurturing that they never? Of course they are. I think the craziest thing, and I write about this in my book as well, where the woman who walks up to me and my daughter's standing next to me, and I have one girl, 4 boys, and she says, can I ask you a question? And I said, of course. She said, what did you do when she started her period? And I said, I told her she couldn't have it. My daughter looks and says, if only that was true. People have got to realize that as dads, we are able, first of all, we have strong women role models in our life. So
absolutely, yes.
Strong women role models in our life. We have strong men role models in our lives. And so that is what it's all about. Peter, you wrote your book, Now I Am Known. What made you decide to finally put this all into a book?
So for me, I had been asked to write a book years, 10, 12 years ago, but I said no, because I felt I wasn't complete. As I said, I've always wanted to be a dad. But 2, I have kids who sometimes adore me. They think, man, I have the coolest dad. But I wanted to show my kids by revisiting my past to say, hey, you have a cool dad, but who overcame the same traumas you've gone through? Who beat the odds? Who everyone thought it would never amount to anything? That I want them to know that if dad can come from this way, I can do as well. But also, I wanted my readers and the people who think I'm a good dad to show that, hey, never let the past define your future. Never, never, never let that. So in some way to really show how I beat the odds, but to how we can all beat the odds and use, yes, our past is something we could never get away with, but in other words, embrace it and use it as a foundation to do better for ourselves and for others as well. My father never wanted the best for me, but I wanted to prove him right. Like, this is what you thought of me, but actually that's not who I am. In some way to really encourage others that, hey, our past, they did not rob you of the future, but rather let's revisit it and use it to save lives for ourselves and for others as well. And that was the whole idea of writing the book, of how someone made me known and how my whole life is to make others known as well.
Wow. That is amazing. Listen, everybody, the book is called Now I Am Known. We're actually going to have a link here where you can actually get the book. It is a fascinating book. It truly does. I love books that really, and that when you finish it, it actually makes you feel good and it makes you want to go do good, which is what each and every one of us want. Peter, I will tell you, you are an internet I consider you, an internet, one of the celebrities, and you are an influencer. I love how you use your platform to truly educate and teach people, because that's what we need to do. I think that we as a society can continue to think that children come in foster care because they're bad. That's not true. Children come into foster care because of choices other people made, right. And it's our choice to invest to make sure that their future is as bright as it can be. Because if you invest in a child, you actually invest in my future, because they are our leaders of tomorrow. Peter, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you for taking time out. Everybody, again, Now I Am Known. You can look Peter up on Instagram. You can look, his People magazine article was phenomenal. Again, congratulations on your 2 new kids. And I can't wait to just continue to watch you on your journey.
Right. And you inspire us too. I love your passion. And that's kind of for me why I use my foundation and my social media to tell the story of our kids, because I watch you do that every day. So thank you for making us seen, heard, and known, and for loving so hard our kids.
Oh, I love you. I love you. Everybody, listen up. This is another edition of Fostering Change. I can't thank you all enough. Once again, this is the 3rd year in a row we've been voted the #1 podcast for foster care and adoption. And let me tell you the reason why: because of amazing guests like my friend Peter. Until then, I hope you all have an amazing Thanksgiving. I hope that you fill your bellies up with as much turkey. And until next time, this is Fostering Change. Take care.